Woo! Football Friday, Big Sil's National Football Show. Happy Friday the 13th. Eagle fans, Friday the 13th, heading into a wild card weekend. Are you a little nervous? Or do you feel as punchy as you did in September and October? Huh? The playoffs are here, baby. I don't want to hear one excuse. Not one excuse. Not one. This thing better end up in Glendale. This bad puppy better get there. 14-3, executive of the year, all this other stuff. You better end up in Glendale, or it's a bad season. Or a missed opportunity season, because it won't be a bad season. It'll be a missed opportunity. Excuses are for losers. Absolutely, baby. Absolutely. Holy cow, wild card weekend. This is when real football starts. Not taking on the JV Giants anymore. Here we go, baby. This is real football here. Man, are we packed. By the way, Bill Romanowski, hour number 3, 5:30 Eastern. Mr. Assassin, the owner of 4 Super Bowl championship rings, will tell us what it's all about. To play as a team with a bye, wild card, favorite, underdog. Bill's got 4 Super Bowl rings. Can you imagine that? 4 title rings Bill Romanowski has. And we'll talk to him hour number 3 at 5:30 Eastern. 14-3, baby. Glendale. Look at Hank. Hank's got you in Glendale. He's probably got his hotel room all booked and everything. You guys got you feel comfortable? Hey, Xander, let's get a block of rooms. Get your old man to get that Black American Express card out so we can get a block of rooms at the Marriott. Let's go. You feel comfortable? And you get, no return on your money, too. Are you feeling that comfortable to take out the Black American Express card? How you doing? Let's book some rooms. This is going to be very interesting. I'm very excited to see how this thing plays out. This is why the NFL is the greatest reality TV show. Because we don't know what the end is going to be. We're hoping every fan base is 0-0 right now. By the way, check it out. We've ranked every coach that's going to be in the postseason. We've got the draft order. I want to talk about some of the picks the Eagles could make in this coming April draft. Also, our predictions on the games. The All-Pro team. I saw some of you guys tweeting at me. Josh Allen didn't make the Pro Bowl, and Jalen Hurts was second team. Go ahead. You take Jalen. I'll take Josh Allen. You can have Jalen Hurts all you want. You can have Joe. You can have Jalen. I'll take Joe Burrow. Have at it. Take them. I would never build my football team around a dual threat. I'll take Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. I will, okay? Teams that will need a quarterback this coming off season. And also, quarterbacks by the numbers heading into the postseason, baby. There's some good looking. I got top 10. Jalen's in the top 10. I got him in there. Let's start it out here before we get to the topics. One football player the Philadelphia Eagles have to establish this postseason. Who is he? Who is the one guy that the Eagles have to establish? I think it's very simple. Who's the one guy? Who's the one guy this football team, the Philadelphia Eagles, have to establish? Steven says Miles Sanders. I like Miles Sanders. But you want to hear something? They haven't established Miles Sanders all year. He's not been a consistent thing that they've tried to establish every game. He's not. Messiah, is that how you say it? You're dead on. Get to Goddard. Kansas City establishes Travis Kelce. The teams with good running games and the teams with exceptional quarterbacks and tight ends, those are the teams that win Super Bowls. Dude, Patrick Mahomes had a special year again this year. Why? He lost Tyreek Hill. I get it. But, dude, as long as you have that tight end and that mismatch against linebackers, you're going to win games. What was the number one weapon that Tom Brady had for all those Super Bowls in New England? Who was it? It was Gronk. Gronk was the establishing guy that the Patriots consistently wanted to get going. Block and release. Block and release. Gronk was the guy. Tom Brady, I mean, think about this. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl in Tampa because of him. Gronk's not there. So you think there's any coincidence that Gronk's not being in Tampa Bay this year? The Buck offense doesn't look anything remotely close to what it did a year ago. They're scoring 12 points less than they did a year ago. Do you think that's any coincidence that Gronk's not there? Gronkowski was the established player for Tom Brady all those years in New England. I think the injury, listen here, this is going to sound crazy. I think the injury to Dallas Goedert has been more significant to the offense than Lane Johnson. I think it's been more significant, getting him back into a rhythm. Dude, they have gone so much to the perimeter now and those wide receivers, the team doesn't look the same. Look, I get it too, man. Jalen missed a couple games. The team's not the same. You're not going to have the same continuity. He's banged up. I get it. There's no doubt your star quarterback is not in there. That's a factor for sure. And that's probably a major factor. Okay? And that probably, it is. It's a major factor. Not having your top dude in there is an issue. But still, Dallas Cowboys, and that Cowboy game, Jalen Hurts doesn't play defense. It's wobbled the team that they've not been able to establish what they were doing in September and October. Remember this? You keep saying, well, the team, they'll get back on track. What happened defensively this last month? How about this? Let's do this. Shit, I would even make this point. I think the offense is kind of tailored off and kind of tapered off a little bit, but the defense clearly is tapered off the last month. Am I right when I say that? The defense has looked worse than the offense the last month, and that's without Jalen Hurts. Am I wrong when I say that? By the way, the sack totals are great, but I showed you the defense has been giving up high completion percentages to bums. Dak Prescott has 15 INTs. Yet in that game against the Eagles, he had a 77% completion percentage. And outside of the pick six, he looked like a superstar. The defense has looked worse. Gave up 139 yards last week to scrub Giant players. Scrub players. Okay, I'm just saying. I think you got to establish Dallas Goedert again. And the Eagles have to go on those 13, 14 play drives. You know how you guys were starting games out? I'll tell you, the thing that I love the most about the early season Eagles, I think there's two teams now. I think the Eagles have two teams. They're two different teams. They're not the team they were in September. They're just not. That team in September would do this, right? Start a game, 13-play drive, end a game, 13-play drive. They're not doing that anymore. They got to get back to that. They got to get back to establishing Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders. Those two guys have to be the focal point. And that opens everything else up, in my opinion. You get back to that, Jalen's healthy. The question mark will be in the divisional round. Personally, I don't know if Jalen would have went this week. He probably would have went because he had to go. This is the playoffs. If they had to play this week, my opinion, I think the Eagles may have gotten bounced this weekend if they had to play. Especially if your quarterback is as hurt as Jalen and the head coach is saying. I'm glad they got the week because this is going to make it even more interesting to see how this thing plays out and who you play, because I think the matchup does matter for next week's game. I also hope the Eagles get a Sunday game. Another day of rest. I hope they get a Sunday game and not a Saturday game. I think it's going to determine if it's the Bucs. If the Bucs play the Eagles in the opening round, I think they could play Sunday because they'd want that game in prime time, and that'd be a short work week for Tampa Bay to have to play on a Saturday. So I think if you play the Bucs, I think you get a Sunday game. If you play Seattle and Seattle upsets San Francisco, I think you're playing Saturday. Just see how this thing plays up. I cannot wait. I can't wait. Get Dallas Goedert established. Get him established. All right, let's get into the topics. We got so much to hit on today. Because it's a bye week, let's wind back the tape here. We had a lot of questions going into this season about the Eagle team. We had a ton of questions. Is Jalen Hurts the guy? Is Nick Sirianni a one-year wonder? Can Jonathan Gannon stop high-powered offenses? Is Shane Steichen the right coordinator for Jalen? Hassan Reddick, how are they going to work him? The free agents that have been added to the team. Let's start with the free agents. All the question marks we had about the Eagles going into this year. We're rewinding the tape here. Let's see if they've been answered. The free agents that Howie Roseman, this is more of a Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman's moves, have they all panned out? Let's take a look at them. His draft wasn't a factor this year. They were a non-factor. So that's not really a check in either box. Okay, that's not a check in either box. It's not good or bad. But nobody really contributed to the team this year. And with Jordan Davis a little bit, especially at the beginning. Okay, Jordan Davis, probably at the beginning. A.J. Brown has been dynamite. Hassan Reddick has been dynamite. James Bradbury has been dynamite. CJ has been dynamite. Kaiser White has been excellent. I've never seen anything. You know what? I would even make this point to you. I don't think Zach Pascal has been awful either. That's the role he had when he was in Indianapolis. Every single move that Howie Roseman has made when it came to acquiring, hey, Joseph, Sue, those were fabulous moves. How about this? The Robert Quinn, okay. You had to give up a 4th-round pick for him? Okay. Maybe not the best. But the free agents that have been added, I've never seen more free agents that were added to one football team and it resulted into massive winning like it did in Philadelphia this year. Every time I've ever seen that, when they acquire that kind of turnover on a team, it never results in winning. It did here. It resulted in winning. All of the free agents, all the moves that he made have panned out. The secondary has been unbelievable. with all the new faces, got to remember something, man. When you bring new people in and you have that much turnover, your entire secondary is different than it was a year ago. Completely did a facelift on the secondary. Complete facelift. It's unreal. Then you add AJ to the mix on the other side of the football. He's been a dynamite player for the growth of the football team, the growth of the quarterback, the growth of the coaches to some extent. The free agents, that question mark has been absolutely answered. You got to give Howie a lot of love here, man. I don't know if that's going to happen again next year. I have no idea because I've never seen this. Never seen this. So I give him credit. That question has been answered. Hassan Reddick, completely answered. Yes. At the beginning of the year, why is he on his third team in 3 years? Now, the question is this. How did Carolina and Arizona miss on him? How'd they let him go? Don't you think those two teams could have used pass rushers? They let Hassan Reddick go because they didn't know how to use him or utilize him? That narrative has completely changed. That question has been answered. Totally answered. Has Jonathan Gannon's question mark been answered? This is a complex question, isn't it? Do you feel better about Jonathan Gannon today as your defensive coordinator than you did a year ago when they took on the Buccaneers in the playoff game? How do you feel about Jonathan Gannon? I'm interested. By the way, statistically, look down the line. Many statistics, they're leading the NFL, top 5 in some and most, top 10 in all. Has Jonathan Gannon been a better defensive coordinator this year than he was in that playoff game against the Buccaneers last year in Tampa? Yes or no? Jameson says no. Hank says yes. Gannon played well. Little better, Joseph says. Gannon can't be trusted. I want a new DC. Is he a better defensive coordinator right now than he was in that January game last year against Brady? I'll tell you when we see Brady in the playoffs. I think that's probably going to play out. Brady's going to be the opponent in the divisional round. Gannon's a bum. Better talent. No, but the talent's better. East Camden, don't know. Okay? I don't see any difference. The biggest difference, he's been facing weaker quarterbacks. Billy Reid, that is correct. Last year, he had harder quarterbacks to face, and they ate him up. This year, the quarterback still ate him up. But here, you know what I'll tell you what Jonathan Gannon's really smart at. He knows you're going to make a mistake. He knows you're going to make a mistake. He's right. With the inexperienced quarterbacks that the Philadelphia Eagles had played this year, he put a game plan together, not just for one game, for all 17 teams. He knew Dallas would make mistakes. Why? One of the highest penalized teams there is in the NFL. Somewhere in a 10-play drive, the Cowboys are going to have an offsides or a legal procedure. That's how he coordinates. I'm figuring him out. That's why it looks plug and play. Jonathan Gannon is counting on you to make a mistake. That's why he wants to keep everything in front of him. That's why he doesn't play man coverage. Okay? That's why he plays zone. He was right. He's been right. It's just not aggressive, but he's outthinking you. Every quarterback that they've played this year, they haven't really played any top-flight quarterbacks. And the ones that they had tremendous success against. Aaron Rodgers was 70%. Andy Dalton was 82% or 88%, whatever it was. Okay? They took on bad old lines. They didn't really take on anybody with any significance this year. Kirk Cousins was a great performance. I thought that was the performance of the year, shutting down Justin Jefferson and those guys. But in theory, Gannon, his philosophy, it is not going to be blitzing. Every time I hear Barrett or I hear somebody on our network talk about he's got to blitz more, you should stop that. He's never going to be that guy. He believes you're going to make a mistake. He believes you don't have a complete team like we do. And he's been right. He's gambled correctly. But when you play a guy like Mahomes, no lead is safe with him. That's why he crushes you. When you play the elite quarterbacks, look at the numbers. They don't lie either. If you want to go by Jonathan Gannon's numbers this year, I'll pull out what the quarterbacks did against you guys this year, and every one of them had great success that were anybody. So for me, Jonathan Gannon, I think he's had better talent. I just think he's had better talent. I do think he's pretty smart. I think he's smart. Listen, I don't think he's very creative. And I don't think he's a very good structure of putting a defensive scheme together. But he's smart. He's smart knowing what your weaknesses are. Hey, look, when you play against 5-9 teams, they're 5-9 for a reason. Lack of talent, no quarterback. You'll make a mistake. That's how he coordinates. That's how he coordinates. That's his philosophy. You'll make a mistake, and he's been right. So really, when I look at Jonathan Gannon, I don't think he's any better than he was a year ago in that Buck game. They've just put better people around him. I don't think he's any better. How about Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator? Is Shane Steichen the right coordinator for Jalen Hurts? This was a question that was asked at the beginning of the year. We're going back and some of the question marks on the football team. We're asking you. Free agents have been a grand slam. Hassan Reddick has been a grand slam. Jonathan Gannon, I think he's still the same guy he was a year ago. I don't think he's improved at all. Shane Steichen. You think Shane Steichen's the right coordinator for Jalen Hurts? Got him hurt. Got him hurt. Ran the same offense for Gardner Minshew in the Cowboy game and in the Saints game. And, is Shane Steichen the right guy? That Chicago game is when I even more started questioning him. I don't think he is. I don't think he's that hot a coordinator. You don't have a different game plan? Frank Reich did. There was a different game plan for Nick Foles. Once Wentz went down, I talked to Frank the other night. They didn't change the plays. They changed the sequence of play calling. They didn't do that here. They didn't do it. You ran the same RPO offense against the Saints that you would have if Jalen Hurts was running. The Chicago game was a train wreck. Shane Steichen really, as talented as you think, and you think he's the right coach for Jalen, I'm not very high on him. These coaches are not very creative. You got talented football players. Jalen Hurts had a great year. I don't think it's because of that coordinator. Let me ask you this. How was his play calling? Tell me how – okay, Murph, tell me how this is play calling. When Jalen Hurts drops back to throw and it's not open and he decides to run, you think that's scripted on the sidelines or is that Jalen's call? Ask yourself how many plays you saw those this year that Jalen made the decision himself and not the sideline. And it was a Jalen call, not a designed run play. Ask yourself that question. How many times in a game, let's just take a number here. Say there's 50 plays, running and throwing. Say there's 50 plays. How many of those plays were because Hurts made the decision instead of the sidelines? Okay? How many of those? That's the text of an RPO. It's the quarterback's call. How was that the sideline offensive coordinator's call? RPO, run pass option. The coordinator on the sideline doesn't make that. That's not his call. That's why when Shane Steichen had to put an offensive game plan together, he couldn't because he had more of a narrow box to deal with Gardner Minshew. That's why he looked like a train wreck against the Saints. And you still think that guy's the right quarterback coach, coordinator, or what have you. I say Jalen Hurts. I agree with you. Hank, I think 70% of the time, Hurts made the play call. And he made the decision on what he was going to do. So again, I go back and I go like, Shane Steichen, really? You think he's the right coordinator for him? Where would you say he's the right coordinator? What game did you go, wow, that guy was just you think that guy's like Andy Reid? Andy Reid is a play caller with Mahomes. And you see the influence of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid together. Most of those plays during the regular season, Jalen made the decision, not the coaches. Run pass option. It's in the text of what you're doing, RPO, run pass option. That's not a coordinator putting a game plan together. That doesn't make sense when people go, Shane Steichen calls great. Jalen is the offensive coordinator on the field. It's not Steichen. Now, the design of the offense and allowing that quarterback not to have to be coached in a phone booth, that's Shane Steichen. That's trust in your player. That is. I want to be fair here on this. I want to be fair because we're Steichen. Just follow me on the coaching style that you have in Philly on both defense and offense. Follow me here. Gannon doesn't believe in press coverage, man coverage. He believes in zone. Keep everything underneath. People make mistakes. The offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, believes in this. Don't put your quarterback in a phone booth. Don't put guardrails on him. Put about 7 plays out there. Let him go out there and be creative with his athletic talent. That's the style of coaching that you have with that staff compared to the previous staff with Doug Peterson, that Doug had guardrails. Same with Jim Schwartz. There were more guardrails on that system with Doug, which meant you had better coaching, more coaching with Doug's staff than you do with this. You're not coaching Jalen Hurts when Jalen Hurts is running RPOs. You're not coaching him. Jalen's taking advantage of his skill set. Okay? Malcolm goes, I think Shane and Hurts could grow together if he sticks around. Yeah, because Malcolm, because on the positive side of it, yeah, there'd be more trust. But then again, here's what you got to do too, Malcolm. Do you think Shane Steichen and the offensive coaches did a good job protecting Jalen Hurts this year? Yes or no? You think they did a good job protecting him? Doug Peterson got exposed in 2017. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl and just won the division title. Sorry, dude. Brandon, Doug Peterson's going to be the coach of the year. He's been validated. He won the divorce. They won the Super Bowl in 2017 because of him, not Howie Roseman. Not Howie Roseman. Not at all. Doug is a great coach. That's an opinion that's wrong. It's been proven wrong. This year, Doug Peterson proved it wrong. Completely proved it wrong. Nick Sirianni won a division title, so did Doug. In Jacksonville. With the Jaguars. With the Jags. After Urban Meyer lit that place on fire, Doug went in and cleaned it up and won a division title. And I think because Mike Williams being out, I think that's a factor. I think that's a pick'em game on Saturday night. Hey, it's the Jags, Jameson. The Jags. They've only had 4 division titles in their history. When's the last time they had a winning season? 17? Oh, G-Mac, one of the greatest moments in Super Bowl history. Foles coming over to the sideline. It's probably my favorite. Why don't we run the Philly special? Okay, go ahead. That's why that guy's great. Doug Peterson, spectacular coach. Love Doug Peterson. So Shane Steichen for me, I think the Eagles could do better. I think the Eagles could upgrade at coordinators this offseason. They get jobs. Go ahead. I think they can upgrade. How about Nick Sirianni? Has Nick Sirianni? What do you think? What do you make of Nick Sirianni? Because what's his job? What's Nick Sirianni's job? Do you think he's answered questions on being the head coach for the next 10 years in Philadelphia? What do you think of Nick? He's an interchangeable piece. Howie makes it that way. Howie makes it that way. It's kind of like a little bit of a Dallas deal. Nick's not a play caller. Nick's involved in the design because Shane's his guy. By the way, Shane Steichen did interview for the Indianapolis Colts and Carolina Panther gig. I like his spirit. He seems like a no phony kind of guy, a genuine dude. I think that's probably what you really like about Nick Sirianni. He's genuine. He's a genuine geek. But that's okay. I mean, you think Bill Belichick is some sort of like guy you want to go out having beers with and you want to go to a strip club with or somebody? That's not the guy. I mean, Sirianni looks like you can go to a strip club with him and have a good time with him, right? Go hang out with him, play cards one night, go bowling somewhere with him. He's cool. Have a great time, couple beers, card night at your boys. He's kind of like that dude, you know? And I think there's a calming atmosphere to having a guy like that around. I think that's a positive too. You're always talking positive things. You're never talking shit on anybody. I think that's a good thing. Now, we'll find out when a little adversity hits. It's great when winning's there because everybody's all hunky-dory. Okay? I think it's all good. Find out when he starts losing some ball games and he starts seeing the other side. A little bit like with A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown's got a little bit of an issue with his attitude, but that's okay. They're winning. And he had a great year. Marina goes, players like him and play for him. I think so. I think you're right, Marina. Okay? Yeah, look at Arthur. Sirianni would outdrink Big Sills. Probably. He looks like that guy. I think that's a skill set. My only problem with Nick, I think he's too emotional. He gets too high and he gets too low. There's no even kill with the guy. And that could be a problem when you have adversity on a sideline. We haven't really seen adversity on a sideline yet in Philly. We really haven't. How will he act in the playoffs when adversity hits? I love how people are ripping on Brock. Brock Purdy has got every opportunity to do as much as Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts did nothing in that Buck game last year. He did nothing. His playoff experience is very limited. This is a different world. I love how people go, Jalen's going to have a huge playoff. How do you know that? He hasn't. How do you know that? Or do you think this? You think playoff experience is overrated? Do you think playoff experience is overrated? I think if you're better, you're better. Okay, but I do think that the coaches have to have some of that. dude, if a guy's a better ball player, he's going to be a better ball player every weekend. I think coaches, look at Marty Schottenheimer. Marty's the greatest example of this. Marty, 206 victories in the regular season. He's 4-14 in the postseason. How can that be? He overcooks it. Schottenheimer used to overcook it every playoff. What did he go through when he was in Cleveland? 3 straight AFC championship games? The Ernest Biner fumble, all that shit, man. The drive. He had that team, that 14-2 team when he was in San Diego. Shit the bed against New England. I thought he had more talent in New England in that early 2000 team when he had LaDainian Tomlinson and Antonio Gates and them dudes. Rodney Harrison, Junior Seau, Vincent Jackson. They had a ton of guys. And they couldn't get past anybody. I think they made it to an AFC title game. I think that's the game Rivers hurt his ACL. Okay, I mean, Gannon, the coaching staff to me is very inexperienced, and I think the head coach is you have a very emotional head coach. Your coordinators are very inexperienced. Smart. I think watch this. I think Gannon and Steichen are smart dudes. Okay, I do. I think they're smart. I don't think they're very creative. You see, those two guys, along with Nick, they play the percentages. That's the analytics. Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen are a prime example of the birth of the analytical coach in today's NFL. That's why guys like Brandon Staley, Kevin Stefanski, Kevin O'Connell, those dudes, that's why those guys are getting jobs. They're the analytical group of dudes now that are circling around the NFL, and they go with the analytics and work with the front office. Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen are today's coaches. You're not going to have Buddy Ryan or Jim Johnson. Those guys are Neanderthals. You're not going to have those type of coaches any longer. They're going to play by the percentages. They're going with the analytics. That's why coaches, when you see guys like Mike McCarthy, why they stumble sometimes, because they're not very analytical. Who would you replace Shane and Gannon with? I think Howie Roseman has bought into the analytics of today's NFL. I don't think it'll be anybody experienced. They would probably elevate from within. They would probably elevate somebody from within, or somebody that has Philadelphia Eagle ties to the organization that has worked with Howie Roseman. Howie's not going to deviate from that. You know why? He doesn't need to have a rogue coach in there telling him or anybody what to do. That's why guys like Seth Joyner will never get a job in the organization of the Eagles. Never. Because Seth is opinionated. Seth has got big beliefs. That's not what they're looking for. The Eagle brass doesn't like that guy. They don't like the Doug Petersons, the Jim Schwartzes, or the Lovie Smiths. It would be a young coordinator. I could see Raheem Morris getting that D coordinator job in Philadelphia. He's with the Rams right now. I could clearly see Raheem getting that job. McVay's already told him you can look for other gigs, because I believe it, and I reported it a couple of days ago. I think he's going into broadcasting at 36, Sean McVay. I could see Raheem being your coordinator. He's a hell of a coach. Hell of a coach. Got a Super Bowl win a year ago. Raheem is a good coach. And I'll tell you what, Raheem now buys into the analytics. I think that would play into somebody like Raheem Morris being your D coordinator. I think Howie would really like him too. Okay? Raheem can coach. I know him very well. I posted numerous pictures of he and I. His schemes are really good too. He's very, very good at it. He's very good at putting guys in right positions to win. What's happened in Los Angeles right now, they pushed all their chips in, and they're going to have 3 shitty years of football because they gave all their draft choices away. Okay, that's all right. You won a Super Bowl doing it. But you're going to experience until 2036 shitty football because you don't have any first-round picks. Hell, I don't even think you have second-round picks. Okay, so true, Big Seals. Doug was under Andy and Nick was under Frank. Howie will always hire within. I could see Frank Reich being the offensive coordinator, but I don't. And plus Sirianni and him, they're close as anybody you've ever seen. So but you got to remember something now. Frank Reich makes $9 million a year for the next 3 years. It'd have to be a consultant. Frank's not going to take a pay cut to come be the offensive coordinator and cash in that $9 million. He's got $9 million coming to him for the next 3 years. He just signed a contract extension. That dumbass Jim Irsay gave it to him. Not doing it. Now, you can keep your salary. That's why there's $900 million worth of coaching. Get this. There's $900 million worth of coaches' salaries that have been fired. That's why the league sent that memo out. Stop doing this. Okay? You're killing us and you're killing our bottom. There's almost $1 billion in unpaid coaching salaries with guys that aren't on the team anymore. I mean, you know, sometimes people get on people for making mistakes at quarterback, like with Wentz in that contract. How about some of these? Look at what they just did with Steve Keim and with Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona. Both guys are gone, and you just signed a 3-year contract extension with Cliff Kingsbury this past offseason. You owe that guy $9 million a year also. I mean, dude, this is like retirement pay. I mean, it's like retirement pay. Look at what the guy who just got fired in Carolina, he had a 6-year contract. Matt Rule had a 6-year contract in Carolina with David Tepper. He had 6 years. He's owed 4 years at $10 million. Dude, he takes the Cornhusker job. Now that's prorated out. Say the Cornhusker job is $6 million. $10 million there. Guess what? The Carolina Panthers still have to pay him $4 million off the contract that's still owed there. I mean, so when you look at Nick Sirianni, how about this? Would you give Nick Sirianni a contract extension? Would you give Nick Sirianni in the offseason a contract extension? Let's see how much you love your guy. Hell yes. I'm not. What's he done? Listen to Howie? You guys can't even tell me what his biggest asset is outside of being a cheerleader in the locker room. That's not contract extension talk to me. That guy's not Andy Reid or Doug Peterson. Make me want to pay him $9 million. Tell me why I want to pay him and give him a contract extension. Now, if he wins the Super Bowl, hey, look, if Jalen Hurts and if Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni win the Super Bowl, you understand where this is going. This is going max dollar, and these are max guys. 14-3 doesn't mean shit to me. I just got through telling you about Marty Schottenheimer going 14-2, and he was fired in the offseason. What's that mean? Means nothing, man. Your legacy is built in the postseason, not the regular season. I just got through showing you a coach who's the 6th all-time winningest and in 25 years never had a losing season. He's got more victories than Chuck Noll and Marv Levy. And he's 4-14 in the postseason. No extension. Let's see how he does if he has a second round of coordinators. I like that. I would, but put the moment he has one bad season, they're going to do this. Right there, preach. Xander, put that up. Look at Preach. Look at what Preach Hamilton just said. I would, but the moment he has one bad season, they're going to do him like Doug. Because Howie sees himself as more important than the coach. And you're not going to pay Nick Sirianni 3 years, $9 million if you think your general manager is more important than the head coach. And obviously the owner does. The owner of your football team thinks more of the GM than the coach. He's proven that. He's fired a Super Bowl winning coach, and he's fired another Super Bowl winning coach. Do you understand? In the last 3 coaches that have been in Philadelphia, okay, prior to Nick Sirianni being hired, they have fired 2 Super Bowl winning coaches. One's going to the Hall of Fame. One's going to be the coach of the year, potentially. Him and Brian Dable have to be up for it. They don't look at the head coaches in Philadelphia as the most important guy in the locker room. They think Howie is. That's why he stands out front of the locker room waving guys in, because it's his team. Don't you see that? Haven't you witnessed it all year in the last 4 years since you guys won the Super Bowl? Haven't you been watching this dynamic? Your coaches are like pawns. Howie's he's the king and the queen. He's the king and the queen on the chessboard. The coaches are all pawns. All interchangeable. That's how Roseman sees it. You know why he sees it that way? He's never going to have Chip Kelly happen to him again. So I ask you with the coaches, you guys are telling me you think some of these guys are really good. They're non-factors. It doesn't matter if Shane Steichen's there or Jonathan Gannon's there. Howie likes the analytical guy. He'll find another guy. As long as they buy in to what the front office and how the front office operates, you're going to get a job in Philly. You guys are saying this shit. I went back and watched the Reddit boards and the newspaper articles. Who the hell is Nick Sirianni? You did the same shit with Doug Peterson, though, too. Hell, you did the same shit with Andy Reid. And I don't think that's out of line. Who are these guys? Andy Reid was a quarterback coach in Green Bay. Everyone knows he didn't call plays in Green Bay. That was Mike Holmgren who called plays. Holmgren was the play caller. Andy was kind of like the quarterback coach. Reid was in Philly for 14 years. So Belichick is in New England for 20 plus years. Landry was in Dallas for 30 years. There's only been 3 coaches in Pittsburgh in 50 plus years. What's your point? That's called stability. Would you not? Hey, so you're trying to tell me you wouldn't want to have Andy Reid still as your head football coach right now with Jalen Hurts? Really? You wouldn't want Andy Reid as your head football coach? I would debate that with you. You wouldn't want Andy Reid. And I'm not going back over history. I'm asking you more about today's staff. But I would say this. Hey, I get it. It was probably time. He wanted out too, the whole thing with his family and shit. I get it. I mean, emotions take over eventually. It's been very emotional for him in Kansas City with his kid, the accident that he had. So I get it. I'm not revisiting the history to say which, I'm just making points here with you guys. Okay, I get it. It was probably time for all to move on. 14 years, a long time in one place. I get it. I'm with you. Andy's time ran out. It could have easily been. Ron, I don't think there's any bad comment with that. I mean, he had great success in Philly. He did. He just didn't run through the tape. Doug did. So when I say this to you about the coaching staff, you think Nick Sirianni's been answered? I think it doesn't matter. Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen, they're pawn pieces. So it's almost like, who cares? Like, they're not going to win. They're not going to win the Super Bowl because of the coordinating, because of the coaching staff. Those players are going to go out there and they're going to, hey, do we agree? Let me ask you this. In 2017, how much do you think coaching was a factor? I want to read some of these responses. How much do you think coaching was a factor in winning the Super Bowl in 2017? And how much do you think it's going to be a factor this year if they win the Super Bowl? How much do you think it's going to be a factor this year? They're coaching this year on this staff. The 2017 coaching was a factor, wasn't it? Coaching was, dude, that's some of the best coaching I've ever seen. Shit, do we not agree? What Kyle Shanahan's doing in San Francisco is kind of what Doug Peterson and Frank and Jim Schwartz did. There were injuries on both sides of the ball in 17 going into the playoffs, right? Am I right? It kind of looks, if I'm going to say this to you, guys, doesn't that 2022 San Francisco 49er team remind you of that 2017 Eagle team? That's why that team in San Francisco kind of bothers the people in Philly. Because you know why? You're looking at a mirror image of 17. You're looking at a mirror image. That team has all the look of that Eagle championship team in 17, except for the most important factor that Philly has. You have home field advantage, and the playoffs have to go through Lincoln Financial. Huge. Huge. Huge accomplishment. Huge. That team's working on a backup quarterback up there to try to carry them. Las Vegas and Atlantic City thinks the Niners are the favorites to win the Super Bowl or come out of the NFC. Look at the odds. They got the Niners. By the way, that Pro Bowl team littered with San Francisco 49er guys. Oh, hey, and by the way, who would I pick? Because it's home, I'd probably go. And because, well, then again, I don't know what Jalen's going to do in the postseason yet. He hasn't done anything yet in it. There's no wow moment for him in the postseason. There's no wow moment for Brock Purdy. And because he got killed in a game against the Bucs, I don't know how much experience that is. What, getting killed? Okay. Do you want to call that experience? Sure. I'm okay with it. Okay, I'm okay with it. Purdy versus the Eagle D. They're going to run the ball. They're going to throw. You don't have one player on your football team to cover Kittle. Not one. So before you start talking about Purdy, you need to worry about Christian McCaffrey coming out of the backfield and catching passes. Who? Hassan Reddick? Who? TJ Edwards? Who? Kaiser White? You don't have a linebacker on that football team that can cover backs or tight ends. It's been proven. That's how teams have been attacking you. You don't have a guy to cover Kittle. And if you put a corner on him or a slot corner, it's a physical mismatch. I'd be careful. And they can run the ball. You don't have one linebacker that could cover that guy Kittle. Not one. They're terrible. The Eagle linebackers. That's why there's a hole in the middle of that defense every game, because the coordinator plays zone coverage. Just all you have to do is pull out the 22 and watch the 22. There's a hole in the middle of the defense every game. Every game. Dude, the Saints guys, I didn't even know who they were throwing the ball to. Same thing with the Giant guys. I had no idea. Some dude named Webb had a 60% completion percentage and never thrown a pass in the NFL. I'd never seen that before. Seattle will upset them. You watch. Okay. I haven't even mentioned Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, I would put Deebo Samuel on Darius Slay big time. I would put him on Slay. Oh, yeah. That's what I would do. I don't think Slay's been playing very good ball the last 2 months. I just don't. I think Bradbury actually outplayed him. I think the guy who's injured, CJ, I think he's outplayed him. I'd line him up right on Darius Slay. Every side of the field Slay was on, I'd put Deebo on him. And then you got a mismatch at the linebacker position on Kittle. And then who again is covering Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield? Just asking. Kaiser White? Kobe Dean? This isn't going to... Hey, and by the way, who covers AJ on the other side? That's why this game is going to be a great one. Who covers Devonta? Who covers Dallas Goedert? Warner? Okay. He's the best. Him and Roquan Smith are the two best backers in the NFL. Sure. Okay. Lane Johnson, being 70%, is not going to block Nick Bosa. That'll be a train wreck. I give Lane a lot of love for going out there. Let's see if he can finish the divisional game first. I'm hoping he can, because I want that game, that NFC Championship game, to be a great one. I love great football. Okay? Well, I would say this to you. Niners haven't done anything since 95. Well, the last 3 years, they've been in 2 of the last 3 NFC title games. Last 3 years, you guys have been fair. This year, you've been really good. I mean, 49ers have had more success than you the last 3 years. That's a fact. That's a fact. Last 4 years, actually, the Niners have been more successful than the Eagles. Yeah, James, and you got destroyed by the Bucs last year. Jimmy G went into Dallas and won, then went into Green Bay and won, and lost to the eventual Super Bowl champions. The Super Bowl game was actually the 49ers and Rams last year. That's a lie, Nicole? Last 4 years, you think you've had more success than the Niners? Where? They've made it to conference championship games. Where? What have you done? 4-11-1. Year before that, too, was a losing season. The year before the 4-11-1 was losing. Then you went 9-8, actually 9-9. And then this year was a great successful season. The Niners have been to 2 of the last 3 NFC championship games. That's not a lie. It's actual fact. There's no reason whatsoever to assume Purdy will continue to play well into the playoffs. Well, why would you go the other way? I'm giving Jalen the benefit of the doubt that he'll play better than that shitball game he played a year ago. You can't do it for one, though. Transistor, you can't do it for one. There's no reason that Purdy's going to continue his play. So there's no reason to think that Jalen's going to improve his play off the Buck game. That's not common sense thinking. I don't know what Purdy's going to do. And all you could do is hope Jalen, being injured, plays better than what he did in the Buck game. That's all. That's fact. That's facts. They were in the playoffs in 19. Okay. You still think you haven't had the success that the Niners have had the last 4 years. Look it up. Let me double check. I want to double check the last 4 years, the Niners. Niners are 12-4 this year. 12-5. San Francisco 49ers year to year. Let's see here. Last 4 years for the Niners. That's 4 years for the Niners. So just want to double check. I want to be factual on that because some of you here. Okay. 13-4 this year. 10-7 last year. 6-10 in 20 COVID year, and they were 13-3 in 2019. So it's the last 19, 20, 21, 20, last 4 years. They've won 13 games, 10 games, and 13 games. They lost in the NFC Championship game. No, excuse me. They went to the Super Bowl in 2019. The year you went to the playoffs, the Niners went to the Super Bowl. And then they went to the NFC Championship game a year later, lost to the Rams, and now they're 13-4, and then they're in the playoffs. So don't talk to me about the Eagles' success the last 4 years. You haven't had it like that team has had it. Not remotely close. They've gone further into playoffs, and they've won more playoff games. So again, we started this off with question marks. And the most important one, I'm going to ask you in hour number 2. Has Jalen Hurts answered the question about future here in Philadelphia? Don't forget, Bill Romanowski, hour number 3. Ton of stuff to hit on. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National.